or any kind of, if you want a piece of fruit. If you're trying to lose weight, that's where you should stay, between 50 and 100 grams. Okay. Between 50 and 150 is effortless weight maintenance. 150 and 300 is where you're going to be putting on that fat. Okay. Above 300 is the danger zone, which is obesity. Curiously enough, if you look at the government's food guide pyramid, just the base of it alone is 300 grams of carbohydrates.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's, we're the most obese country in the world.
What about the whole grain movement? You hear a lot these days about whole grains and all that. What's your thought on that?
It's no different than processed grain.
Okay.
Just a little more fiber.
Okay.
And a lot more anti-nutrients. I'll give you some videos later on, which you guys will all see, which will explain this a little bit further.
Okay.
I don't have time to go into it, but yeah, whole grain is no different than anything else.
Okay.
Good question. Very good. Okay, good news. I'm going to allow some things in the diet that our hunter-gatherer ancestors didn't eat. Okay? But they would have, for sure. Well, actually, it's a really good point, Brandon. So,
if they had access to make them, they would have.
They would have. Yep. If we brought UGG from 15,000 years ago instead of a thing of gumballs in front of me, we eat the whole thing. You wouldn't know that you're supposed to chew them. You would eat them. Because we're hardwired to like sugar. Because evolutionarily speaking, it's good, cheap, quick energy. We just didn't have access to it, right? Certain seasons when berries were ripe, etc., but those were short windows. So we're hardwired to like that. And it's not like they were more disciplined than us. They just lived in a time when those things weren't available. Luckily, that's what our genes are hardwired to like, and so they were a lot healthier. Okay. So stuff that we can have that they didn't have are red wine, white wine, and spirits. You can have a couple glasses of red wine daily if you want to, as long as it's not interfering with your sleep. Dark chocolate, 70% plus is best. Coffee, a cup or two a day. Rice a few times a week if you're trying to lose weight, because it's really easy to add up the carbohydrates really quickly. But this is about the safest grain you can eat. It's white rice, not brown rice. White rice.
Why is that? Because I hear all the time,
not
brown rice is better.
Yep.
I'll convert it to brown now.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. I apologize, I didn't make the rules. Brown rice has more bran, more anti-nutrients, more saponins, lectins, things that turn on the hormones in your brain turn off the hormones in your brain to tell you you're full.
So white rice.
Yeah, white rice, but also use sparingly.
Okay.
But if you get it in a dish, that's fine. Also dairy to your tolerance, and when I say dairy, I mean cheeses, yogurt, sour cream, heavy whipping cream, things like that. The most processed you can get milk is what we're all told to drink, skim milk. That's the furthest away from a cow you can get. Okay. So people say, I've done full spectrum on dairy. I used to say just stay away from it, we're not baby cows. Now I include it in my diet, but baby cows weren't drinking skim milk. Actually, they do give skim milk. I grew up on a farm. They do give skim milk to calves to fatten them up, because it's just basically like sugar.
Where does like soy milk and stuff fit in there?
Soy milk, no. Almond or rice milk.
So I can do almond.
Yeah, almond. Just watch the sugar on there.
How about coconut milk?
Coconut milk is great, thanks. Yeah.
What about quinoa? Is that protein? Is that okay?
Quinoa is not a grain, it acts a lot like a grain. Yeah. There's a food list inside like the first cover, and everything on there is very good.
Okay.
You'll notice that quinoa isn't on there. But quinoa is just full of these things called saponins, which punch holes in your intestinal linings. When they give vaccines through your nose, they put saponins in there, because vaccines, like those viruses aren't supposed to make it into our gut, but they open it up with the saponins. Quinoa has a lot.
So you're not recommending quinoa?
What's that?
You're not recommending
No. It's technically not a grain, but it acts like a lot. Yeah. Okay, this is good news though, people. We're trying to talk about the good news. You need chocolate, free coffee, and happy with cheese.
What if you live with a vegetarian?
If you live with a vegetarian, I've had several vegetarians go through the program. It does get a little bit tougher. Yeah. Are they doing it for humanitarian reasons or for?
More health.
Yeah, it's really an unhealthy diet. I used to be, before I started this program, I was, I'd say 80% vegan. I grew up on a farm in North Dakota where if you ate only 2 servings of meat a day, you were considered a vegetarian. But I was at a point before I started this program where I only, me and my wife, I dragged my wife through all these things that I do, only ate meat maybe once, twice a week in small servings.
Yeah. And
And I was 30 pounds overweight, sick all the time. So your body needs protein to repair. It needs about 50 grams a day in order to create the chemicals that your brain needs to stay functioning optimally. It also needs about 50 grams to repair any damaged tissue. That's just on
you
the
can
average.
skip those through bars.
Sure. I don't know. I was right there with him. Intellectually, it makes sense, but in practice, I feel a lot better. And look at those guys that practice.
Yeah.
If we like,
Yeah.
well, I was going to say intellectually too, you might share with them historically, a human's brains exploded and
Yeah.
doubled in size when humans started eating meat.
Yeah, in fact, yeah.
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 That before when they were vegetarians, that's when we grunted and we didn't have language.
But yeah, if you look at vegetarian,
I
they
mean,
never
yeah,
evolved.
logically, it's true.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
gorilla.
that's when the human species leaped forward, was when they started eating meat and they
Yeah.
discovered fire and they could cook and,
They could, so evolutionarily speaking, we trade smaller stomachs for bigger brains.
yeah.
We trade smaller,
So-
okay.
Yeah, so if you have a bigger stomach, you have a smaller brain like a gorilla.
It's
It's true. I mean,
true.
they have
No,
really
it's fun.
big, long digestive tracts. Okay, so bacon is rad, gluten is bad. Okay, so this 60 days we're making all these changes. Gluten is literally one of the most toxic proteins you can eat. And as long as you're making these changes and staying away from grain, I say try to take these 60 days to try to stay away from gluten. Go ahead and add it back after about 30 days in this program and just see how you feel.
Okay.
Okay, so gluten intolerance exists on a spectrum. There's a bell curve. We're bad at drawing curves, but it wasn't bad. Okay, so a bell curve when we're working in school means these people fail, these people get A's, these people pass. Right?
Yes.
You guys all familiar with this?
Mhm.
Okay. So bell curve as far as gluten is concerned means these people are so violently opposed to gluten that they get bloody diarrhea, right? I don't like to say that word.
We don't like you to say it either.
It's got to be said. So these people are so violently, their body rejects it to the point where it just is not, it's the bad stuff. That means that these people can eat it without any real consequences. Unfortunately, that might have been true 50 years ago. But in the 70s, we thought there was going to be a food shortage. Population was going to outstrip food supply. So we started genetically modifying the wheat kernel. Pretty much everything that's grown has never really been tested on human beings. So this part of the curve has gotten a lot smaller. And I've never even really met anybody with this. I just, if you take this logically, that some of them probably do exist. Most of us are in here. So maybe you don't get bloody diarrhea, but you have brain fog. Maybe you don't get bloody diarrhea, but your kid has ADD, you have adults with acne, you've got 10 pounds around your waist you've never been able to get rid of, focusing, you've got allergies, you've got an autoimmune disease, you've got et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've got MS, whatever. So this protein gets into our bloodstream. It's not supposed to, but it gets in there because of other stuff in the wheat kernel. And it gets into our nervous system, it gets into our brain, it does some nasty stuff. Okay. We're all eating it in like droves. Okay? So I've taken it out of my diet and gotten a lot healthier. And I just, believe me or don't believe me, but just please take it on faith. You should cut it out of your diet for about 30 days. Then add it back and see what's going on. And I want it completely out of your diet for 30 days because it takes that long for your stomach to heal. Okay?
So does that mean reading, like, some things will have it that you would never think have it? Does that mean reading every label?
Yeah,
to see if it has it, or
yeah. Well, you're not going to be eating you're going to be eating a lot of whole foods.
So it won't be a lot of processed stuff?
But like soy sauce has a little bit of it, so I wouldn't get super stressed out about that
Okay.
kind of stuff. But gluten is a lot like poison ivy, like, it's like, well, I just rub a little bit of poison ivy in my arm. I don't see why, I got, it's, any